Hey, welcome back. This is section 3 today of our interview with Coach Chris McDermott from Whittier College, the poets there. And yesterday he did a great job explaining practice and how he plans it out. And I think he had a great quote. That they continue to work on things not till it's right, but till they can't do it any other way. That's kind of an important tip for any coach to remember is that when you're working on a skill, you're having your kids, your student athletes work on a skill. It shouldn't just be like, oh, they did it right that time. We can move on now. You want them to continually do it right over and over and over until really there's not another way that they're going to do it. If you're trying to get them to change a habit, you got to get it all the way developed into a new habit. So that was awesome yesterday. Today he does a great job talking about recruiting and what he looks for, and I think this is great for coaches, but it's also great for athletes to watch this one today and see that there are opportunities out there. You don't want to necessarily overextend and only think that your only option if you're going to go somewhere is to play Division One college athletics. These Division Three schools, junior colleges, Division Two schools offer a lot of things out there. So let's hear from Coach Chris today about how he goes about recruiting and what to look for.
No, it's cool. And
cool.
One thing to mention too is so every conference, every sport is different and unique.
Mhm.
And one thing that the conference Coach Miles and I played in was the MPSF at the time. And you had schools from BYU to Hawaii to Pacific to Pepperdine to Stanford. And one thing that was unique about that is every school was actually realistically or they were a lot different. BYU is not Hawaii. Hawaii is not Pacific. Long Beach is not Pepperdine.
Right.
UCLA is not, BYU. Your conference is very unique. You have no scholarships and it's extremely academic conference. And when, as an outsider looking in, I kind of think like, well, Whittier and Laverne, they're pretty similar. Or Cal Lutheran, Laverne, pretty similar. Or Redlands. And I just think for you, can you talk about how you recruit? Because at the end of the day, I'm assuming all you conference coaches are recruiting the exact same kid, same niche. Kid wants to stay in California, wants a small private school. And, you got the Claremont you're competing at.
Sure.
How do what's your niche with recruiting? How do you get them to go to Whittier? Because you're clearly doing a good job.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's hard in the sense that it's time consuming because I think my net has to be bigger than a lot of other schools, if I want to bring in the quality that we've been lucky enough to bring in. But one of the rules that I always live by, and one of my assistants and I always used to joke about it, is my goal and one of the philosophies I have for recruiting is to make them tell me no. I will never not go after someone that I know is available because I don't think I'm going to get them. And so my job is if I haven't reached out to as many talented kids that I see and like and start having those conversations, then I haven't been doing my job. So my goal is to make sure that they tell me no, because one no is just closer to a yes, and so we have a lot to offer as an institution. We do have some things that are slightly different from our competitors, but at the same time, sometimes it's location. Sometimes it might be because they like purple. I couldn't tell you the random things that, purple and gold, they might like the Lakers. And suddenly now I have a leg up from maybe a Laverne. I don't know, so, but at the same time, I think too, they like the idea of, my hope is that it's the program that sells them on it. If all of our institutions are similar and they're going to get a great academic education anywhere that they go, then it's the feel they get from, we like to run our program like a family. So that family feel, but also that kind of, Karch was talking about that co-opetition kind of spirit that we have. I think hopefully makes the difference for them in terms of if two things are equal, which team do I see myself in and what program do I see myself being an ambassador of, And so my hope is that that's what might tip the scale for them. But I think too, our conference is great. They know that they're going to get an opportunity to play against great teams. And I think it's unique that all of our conference coaches are close. I didn't realize that was unique until I started serving on different committees and whatnot, and learning that not every conference has the same relationship that our conference coaches do. So I think we're lucky in that aspect. And it's gnarly volleyball. And I think that we all know that the better we all get, knowing that we have multiple teams in our conference that have won a national championship in the last 10, 15 years, then that means we all get better anytime we win, and so that's kind of been our goal. And I think it attracts a lot of student athletes to just kind of getting that level of education. So, but yeah, I think it's a lot of hard work, and it's making sure that, everybody around and knowing who might be a good fit and who you don't want to compromise. You don't want to compromise the level of athlete or the level of hard work or dedication, but at the same time, you may have to go work harder to find it. So that's just kind of me in a nutshell. But I mean, you've seen me out recruiting, I'm always out there trying to do my best and see as many kids and make sure that we're evaluating correctly and accurately and seeing enough of them,
Yeah. And something that stuck with me that you said earlier was, you said, you're just looking for ballers. Didn't matter if they're 6 foot, 5'10", 5'8". I think that's great to have that open, kind of that open mindset. I mean, I found it even with some of the high school coaches I've run into that they seem stuck in thinking that they got to have a certain person for a certain spot. And it's like, well, you're at one high school with a certain amount of kids to pick from. Like you just may not have that. So I can be stuck in that. What are some intangibles that you look for then when you're out there? If you are open to kind of any player, what, when you're watching a practice, maybe if you're popping into one of those, or if you're at a tournament, what kind of little extra things are you looking for that sets them apart that makes you go, you know what, I want to try and see if this girl can be a part of our program?
Sure. I think it's funny. The first thing I would say when I'm going out there, one of the shifts that I made, when you first get the job and you want to get all these impressive athletes and all that and have the look and the right thing and this and that, but then you didn't always get the best volleyball players, and I was fortunate. We did get quite a few great volleyball players, but when I started making the shift to really start thinking about how we could take our program to the next level, I started almost having, I joke and say it's playground rules. Who would I have picked if I was on the playground and first captain? Who would I have picked to be on my team when I'm out there watching? Who would I want to play with, and why, and I think as coaches, we always strive to see who's the person that's going to care as much as we do, and so when I'm out there looking, I like to watch. I think there's obviously a level of athleticism that there's required to play at the collegiate level. I think some of it can be overcome by hard work or training or whatever, but I think there's still kind of a base that I'm looking for just in general and certain characteristics for certain positions, of course. But I like to see how they handle when they don't play well. I like to see how they handle when their team loses. I like to see how they handle when their team's winning. I like to see, are they the person everybody looks to for stability? And the biggest thing, I know it sounds kind of silly, but I like to see if they're having fun, because I think college volleyball is a grind. And I love the grind, and I want somebody who loves the sport as much as I do or enjoys playing the sport as much as I did, that they're going to love the grind too, And so, those are just, I think, kind of some of the intangibles, but I think how they interact with their coaches is big. I think how they interact with their teammates and even their parents. We always joke that we're never going to bring someone in who cusses her mom out for getting a red Gatorade instead of a blue. We don't want that athlete there, no matter how good they are. And, I always joke when I used to coach club, I talk to my athletes about that. And I go, you guys laugh, but you've seen it. And I was like, and if you're not laughing, it might be you. So, but yeah, so I would say kind of, I think you can just tell when someone's enjoying themselves and when someone wants to work hard and someone's competitive, and if they have a good IQ, you could have your outside hitter, you guys know your volleyballers, outside hitter who thunders balls, or you can have your kid who's crafty as heck that looks exactly the same on a stat sheet. So those are kind of the things that I like to watch a lot, though. I think that's something that I guess you could say I'm old school in, I guess, or whatever, where it's not just film. I like to really go and watch for a whole day, or maybe even more. So.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, not to jump in again, but I never heard it put that way. Like, who would you choose on the playground? And it immediately made me think of kids that I've had. That's like, no wonder I really liked coaching that kid, because if I were going to jump on the court with them, and there were sometimes that I did, especially in high school, like just to mix things up, those are definitely kids that was like, yeah, I think I'll put you on that side, because I know that's where I'm going to end up. And so it's like, that makes sense. If I was out on the recruiting trail, that's a great way to look at it. So that's awesome.
Yeah. You alluded to it earlier, and As you know, Coach, I've been on the recruiting trail with you. And back in the day, I used to recruit and I used to be a college coach. And you're not kidding, though. I remember I stayed with you. We were in Vegas. We were with a couple of coaches at a nice hotel. And he said, "Hey, KP, we got to get there at 7:15." I'm like, "Tournament starts at 8." And you're like, "No, I gotta go watch them warm up. I got it." And I'm like, you know what? And then it was really cool because, I was at a different level of recruiting than you were. You were at the NCAA level. I was at community college, but there is an art to it. And if anyone is going to tell you, I know that now they have all these apps and all these things that tell you what to do. You got to be you got to be genuine. But at the end of the day, too, you got to put your hard helmet on. You got to show up with your lunch pail and you got to recruit. And I just remember in Vegas, and those conventions, they're huge. Coach Chris just working the courts with his 2 assistants. And I'm like, man, that guy. And it was when you were building that culture and building that program and you weren't where you are now. And I'm like, it's just crazy. That's part of culture building and team building. But a question I have for you is, what's the age you start recruiting the athlete at the Division III level or at Whittier? What, junior, sophomore?
I would say probably the second semester of their junior year is when we're really starting to kind of get into it. I think we operate a little different in terms of admissions than some of our counterparts in our conference where they might have a little bit earlier capabilities. We typically are recruiting more like seniors in terms of like going through the process and doing everything. But in terms of looking at them and starting to make those lists, we're looking at their junior year, definitely the second semester of their junior year more heavily. Other than that, it might be a little bit early. If they're sophomore, it's too early for us. So, and that's just the reality of, the fact that they would have to wait to go through the process to get accepted to our school before we can even discuss it, because all of our scholarships are packaged through academics. So they have to get accepted and be deemed, whatever their merit scholarship award is prior to us even being able to kind of talk about money or anything like that. So.
Very cool. Well, I mean, those are all great tips on recruiting. And, I helped volunteer a little bit with Kevin while he was doing junior college. And I mean, there's certainly athletes out there and there's girls who want to be playing at all different levels. And I think sometimes junior college, Division III, Division II, I mean, even gets forgotten a little bit. And, it's awesome to hear that. I can think of people that I've coached in high school that, they'd probably be perfect kind of fit. And, I think back to how they're putting themselves out there in terms of recruiting. And I think they're focused way too much on maybe overextending themselves a little bit to a level where, I mean, it's not unrealistic in terms of their actual stat line, maybe in high school and their work ethic, but they're just not going to be big enough. And, at least after talking to a bunch of Division I coaches, if you're not tall enough, it's not where you're going. But so, I love hearing that there are these opportunities for those kind of players out there. That's just, I mean, it lets me know that what kind of information to pass on to those people as I run into those kind of candidates. So that's awesome.
Hey, that was some great advice. And like I was saying there toward the end of that section of the interview is just that, I can definitely think of players out there who could have these opportunities to go play at some of these schools. If your academics are high, and you're a good, solid volleyball player, you're a good, solid athlete, no matter what the sport is, these Division III teams, need athletes, and they need high academics, a lot of them, in order to get those athletes in. So, if you have that combination, make sure that you're looking at these avenues because, again, you can go to a great school, which is really what it's all about, and play some really high-quality athletics. And a lot of times those schools do still scrimmage at the start of the season, Division II, sometimes even Division I programs. And so, it's a great opportunity out there for you if you're looking for it. So, anyways, tomorrow, last day, he's going to talk a little bit about what he's done through this time of COVID and kind of Zoom practice and Zoom meetings with teams. And so, that's a great look into how he runs that part of his program when this has happened, and also for coaches to get some ideas maybe moving forward as there continues to be some, lockdowns or restrictions, or even off-season time where this can be a tool for you to meet with your players. So, anyways, come back tomorrow, hear the final section of this interview, and get our final thoughts on the week.
So that's awesome.
Awesome.
Hey, if you're looking for some great clothing, new logo, you need a great combination, go to onestoneapparel.com, onestoneapparel.com. They made us this awesome logo that fit better onto a great polo shirt, hoodie, and they got all kinds of different materials that you can choose from. So again, check them out, onestoneapparel.com. Email Dave at onestoneapparel.com. Let him know Valuable Coaching sent you.